Hi everyone, this is Christina Tahosis, holistic nutritionist and owner of Thrive Nutrition Practice, where I focus on digestive healing and on postnatal recovery. Welcome to Nourishing Conversations. I am sitting here with Sofie Jacobs, Hong Kong's premier midwife and boss lady of Urban Hatch, where she focuses on providing support for men and women during pregnancy, birth, and beyond. She has also just launched Asia's first online childbirth education course, so I'm really excited about that because I think it's got a lot of good things in it. And basically, we are here today to talk about a very taboo topic.
Yes.
We are here to talk today about the elephant in the room.
Yes, we have an elephant in the room.
And that is sex and the vagina post-birth. Are you ready?
I am ready. And can I just say, Christina, that when you emailed me to ask if I was interested in talking about this, I jumped out of my chair and I was like, yes, because we need to talk about it. We need to talk about it.
We do need to talk about it.
It's something that always comes up in my consultations.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, it comes up in mine too.
Yeah.
And so I thought we would be a good kind of team to talk about it and share some views with all of you mamas out there. Okay, so to kick off.
And dads.
So to kick off, why on earth is our vagina so damn dry after childbirth, and how long does that last?
Very good question, and I am glad that you're asking that. Now, vaginal dryness is something that the vast majority of women who give birth will experience. Some for a number of weeks, some for a number of months. And some for nearing a year, maybe even a little bit over. Now, the biggest reason why women experience vaginal dryness is hormones. Okay, mighty hormones. Hormones are so powerful, and the one that I am particularly talking about in relation to vaginal dryness is estrogen.
Right.
Now, estrogen is a very female hormone. It's a hormone that is involved with all sorts of things. When we're pregnant, our estrogen levels go through the roof. And then when we give birth, within the first 3 hours after giving birth, our estrogen levels plummet.
Right.
And they plummet to levels that we see in postmenopausal women.
Oh,
so when you think about it, women that have gone through the menopause struggle enormously with vaginal dryness, with mood swings, with hot flashes, with feeling low, and all of those symptoms related to plummeting estrogen levels. So backtracking a little bit, within 3 hours of giving birth, your estrogen has gone down the drain, and it takes around about 7 days for it to get to its lowest level before it starts to increase again.
Okay.
But the increase doesn't happen overnight.
Right.
Okay. And that is why some women end up with vaginal dryness for months after giving birth, and especially women that breastfeed, because we know that breastfeeding does keep our estrogen levels at a lower value.
So if you're breastfeeding for like a year,
you're gonna have vaginal dryness. You're more likely to have vaginal dryness for that time.
Okay.
Now, should that be a reason to stop breastfeeding earlier? No. If you enjoy breastfeeding and if it's working for you, then carry on, because there's a number of things that you can do to make your life
Absolutely.
easier.
I mean, there are organic lubricants these days that you can use and all kinds of things. But taking a step back, I mean, apart from vaginal dryness, because that obviously impacts, sex and our sexual activity a lot. The other thing that I wanted to ask you about is inflammation.
Yes.
Right? Because there's a lot of vaginal and uterine inflammation after we give birth. And I want to ask you, basically what's going on down there? How long is the healing time? Like what can we expect?
Okay, so this is a slightly more difficult question to answer because it's different for everybody.
Right.
And it's very much dependent on your health status. How healthy are you before you give birth and in the postnatal period? What is your diet like? Because inflammation is hugely related to diet. What are your stress levels like? What is your physical stress like and your emotional stress? Now, in general though, we can say that the inflammation stage will take at least 6 to 8 weeks after giving birth. Okay,
yeah, that's
it's going to reach its peak within the first few days after birth, and then it will the inflammation will reduce a little bit, but it will linger. Now, so if we watch what we eat, and we eat more of what we should eat, and we eat less of what we shouldn't eat. Sugar is like throwing oil on an already burning fire when it comes to inflammation.
Yeah, definitely.
So then, you know, I mean, diet is a big factor, and it's also very challenging, right? Because when we work with women who've just given birth, your priority is going to be to look after your baby and to nourish your baby.
That's right.
Not so much to nourish yourself. Oops.
That's right.
Yes. So, but we'll get to that.
We'll talk about
what you can do. So inflammation, can take a number of weeks for that to go.
Okay, and I mean, if you're having sex like maybe 3 months down the line, or like, you know, or 6 months down, and you're still having pain, like, is that normal? You know, does that still mean that there's inflammation there? What's going on there with like the, you know, tell us, you know, what could be going on?
Gosh, Christina, I love that you brought that question up, because painful, uncomfortable intercourse is something that so many women experience, and indirectly so many men, right? Because if there's two people involved, then the other person is gonna be affected by it as well. Now, painful intercourse can indeed be related to inflammation, but it can also be related to a pelvic floor that is too tight.
Oh, really?
Yes. And this is something that a lot of women don't realize, you know, because
I actually had no idea.
We're always being told to do our Kegels. And, you know, if you're a very keen person, you may do your Kegels, you know, 3 times a day instead of just twice a day. And that's not an issue if you're doing them correctly.
Right.
But if you're doing them incorrectly, or if your entire core synergy is not quite up to scratch, then it can actually have the opposite effect, and our pelvic floor can become so tight that it cannot relax.
Interesting.
And that's obviously not
idea.
Useful when you've got a penis inside, or you've got a vibrator inside, right?
Yeah.
You know, I mean,
For sure.
a toned pelvic floor gives us better orgasms, but a hyper-toned pelvic floor will give us discomfort.
Interesting.
Then there is also the emotional and the physical stress, right? Because when you're having intercourse and it's painful, maybe your mind is not ready for it.
There could
be maybe there's a disconnect.
For sure.
Maybe
you're not ready.
You're not ready.
You're stressed about the baby waking up, or I don't know, or you're just not.
Exactly. You're not ready. Your mind isn't in it.
Yeah.
And, you know, just lying there or sitting on top when your mind isn't in it, is not going to be comfortable.
Yeah.
So when is the right time to have sex for the first time? It's different for everybody.
For sure.
Different for everybody, and I would, before you go into that first time, lower your expectations, and don't make the goal to have the most amazing sex of your life.
Yeah.
You know, because a lot of women report to me that it's actually that first time after having had a baby feels very similar to losing your virginity the first time.
Yeah.
And for many of us, losing the virginity
was not pleasurable.
It's not pleasant.
No, indeed. And just to come back to the whole nutrition point of view, because, you know, obviously I'm a big fan of using nutrition to lower inflammation in the body, and I'm always recommending, you know, big time anti-inflammatory foods like plenty of vegetables, plenty of folate and leafy greens, and plenty of omega-3 fatty acid kind of rich foods like salmon and bone broth and all that kind of lovely stuff. But I just wanted to just ask you, you know, in terms of, you know, you've got 20 plus years of midwifery experience, how important is nutrition to lower inflammation postpartum and to get to that kind of stage where you're comfortable again?
Gosh, nutrition is so important, and nutrition is one of my pillars.
That's
you know, that kind of forms the foundation of everything that I do within my practice. But that's not because I'm a midwife, you know, because actually, Christina, very sadly, as midwives, we don't get that much on nutrition.
Right.
And it's it blows my mind, you know, and it's absolutely bonkers because nutrition is a vital part of a healthy pregnancy and getting yourself set up for motherhood and fatherhood and going through that postnatal period.
So nutrition can be used as a tool to feel sexy again.
Definitely, definitely. And in fact, I talk about it in my childbirth education course.
My online course.
Yes. And nutrition is important. And in terms of recommendations, from my point of view as a midwife, we're looking at hormone balancing and we're looking at inflammation, you know, anti-inflammatory foods. And I'm very much with what you just brought up.
Okay, cool. Okay, now, taboo topic. Funky vaginal smell after childbirth. Oh my goodness, I was not prepared for that. I don't know if anybody watching here had this situation as well. I certainly did. What is going on there, and how long should we be expecting this funky vaginal smell to last? Because boy, that is not sexy.
It doesn't make you feel sexy. Oh gosh, it doesn't make you feel sexy, and that is the big elephant in the room, isn't it? Because no one talks about that. But you're not alone, so don't feel weird. A lot of women do experience
no, I know
funky,
that now.
Smelly vagina. Oh yeah, okay,
yeah,
good.
because I have women talking to me about that, but anyway.
So when that conversation came, you were like, yes.
I was like,
I'm
me
not
too.
Alone. So, okay, what happens when you give birth, and this is both for the group of women that give birth vaginally as well, surgically by cesarean section.
Yeah, because I had a C-section, so I wasn't, I thought kind of a lot of the rules that applied to vaginal birth didn't apply to me. But anyway.
And that's a bit of a myth because your body, your uterus will still need to go through the same healing process.
For sure.
And when you give birth, you will experience bleeding, you will experience vaginal discharge. That is actually a mixture of mucus, it's a mixture of bits of uterus that comes out, of the lining of the uterus, and there's blood. And there's obviously bacteria involved in that as well. And the combination of those things makes that vaginal discharge smell a little bit funny and funky. And not so sexy.
And not so sexy.
Now, how long does it last? So the discharge is what we as medicals call lochia. It's very heavy the first few days after giving birth, and then it goes into a bit of a light, so like a heavy period. Sometimes even with some clots. That goes then into a lighter period at the end of that first week to 10 days. And then moves into a brownish discharge, and then into a creamish discharge.
And
that can take 5 to 6 weeks.
And it comes and goes. It took a few months actually, from what I
for it to completely
for it to kind of completely go.
So a bit of a funky, not so sexy smell is perfectly normal.
Okay, good to know.
But if the moment comes when you pull your pants down, and you literally need to turn your head away, and you go like this, then you need to go to your doctor or midwife because there could be an infection.
Okay, good to know.
And it needs to be checked out.
Okay, so taboo topic number 2 that I wanted to talk about maybe briefly with you is thrush.
Thrush, yes. Thrush, I'm glad you brought that up because thrush is very common amongst postnatal women. It's common, obviously, as well amongst women outside of pregnancy.
For sure.
But what's really important to keep in mind, and I actually would love to get your thoughts on nutrition on that, but what you guys all need to keep in mind if you're watching this as a woman or as a man is that thrush can easily get passed on from one person to the other. So let's say, I have a bout of thrush, I treat myself, I've had sex, but I've treated myself, so I've ticked that box.
Yeah, you've ticked that box.
If my partner doesn't get treated, he can easily pass that back on to me, and it can become a back and forward.
That's right, and that's really annoying. I mean, I see that a fair bit in practice as well, that women complain that I've dealt with my thrush, and then every time I have sex it seems to come back. And if we can do a lot nutritionally to help treat that, and certainly postnatal women are more at risk for episodes of thrush because they're under a lot of stress, they're not sleeping well, they're probably not eating well as well, because, they're as you said, our primal instinct is to take care of this baby and not to necessarily take care of ourselves. So we're having like scraps of toast for breakfast, or we're skipping meals because we're constantly, breastfeeding the baby, or, trying to put him down to sleep or whatnot. So we're not eating as well as we should. And that's all contributing to the picture of, what our gut health, really, to contributing to yeast in the gut and other issues. So, but yeah, definitely one of those issues that no one talks about.
No one talks
and
about.
certainly thrush isn't considered a sexually transmitted disease. It's not an STD, for example, but it is something that is part of the male-female partner picture.
And it's annoying because
it's annoying.
Really,
Yeah,
once
it's painful.
it's in your body, once you've got that candida overgrowth, it's really difficult to get rid of.
Yeah, it's difficult. It entails
It's
patience.
not sexy when it's in between your toes, and it's not sexy when it's in your vagina.
No.
And it's not sexy when it's on your nipples either.
Right. No,
Then
exactly.
it can get passed on to the baby.
Indeed. So, one of the reasons why I wanted to talk to you about this whole sex in the vagina thing is because I read your blog post, Sex After Having a Baby, and I really, really loved it. I love the connection that you pointed out between stress and hormones. It's not something that a lot of women kind of piece together. And, a lot of us women, we feel really guilty about the fact that we don't want to have sex after giving birth, and not just after giving birth, but for months, potentially, a very long time after we have had our kids. So can you tell us about what is happening hormonally? What is the hormonal picture there that's contributing to this lack of sex drive?
Yes, it's stress, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's stress. The way hormones work, and this is nature's fuck up, I think. That is nature's fuck up, because
for today's world.
Today's world. Well, I actually think, because sex can be very joyful and relaxing, and it can lower our stress levels.
Right.
But what happens is when your cortisol levels are high, when your stress takes over, then your sex hormones are going to be down the drain.
Yeah.
And we won't feel like having sex. So what would have been much better is that our cortisol goes up and our sex hormones goes up.
Yeah.
And then, we could just have more sex and have less stress.
And have less stress and feel
And,
much more
the
relaxed.
whole world would be a much better place. But, that doesn't happen. So it is stress. When you're under physical or emotional stress, or a combination of both, your sex hormones are going to be down the drain, and you're not going to feel horny. You're not going to have that sex drive.
No.
And men actually experience a very similar thing. So, taking away that guilt from women after birth who don't feel like having sex is almost going to be impossible, because we just tend to feel guilty about everything.
A lot of guilt.
But I think the conversation that we need to have as well is that, let's not put it all on the women, because within a couple, if there is a couple, there are two units.
For sure.
And it might not be just a woman who's given birth who doesn't feel like having sex. It might also be her partner.
Absolutely.
Whether a female partner or a male partner.
There's a lot of male burnout, post-babies as well.
Yeah.
It's something that doesn't get talked about. Their hormones change as well after having kids.
Yeah.
More studies need to be kind of done on that. But yeah, we've often talked about that, how there's, men need that support as well.
Yes, definitely.
Postnatally. But connected to this issue of stress and cortisol is the whole issue of the thyroid too, right? Dr. Aviva Romm, which is a functional medicine doctor that I follow in the US, she's a functional medicine doctor and she's a midwife, kind of like superhero combination. But she's written extensively about postpartum hypothyroiditis. So, women who, because of stress, their adrenals have packed up and they experience hypothyroidism. And I just wanted to talk to you again. You've had 20 plus years of midwifery experience. Do you see this? How often? What signs do you look out for? When should we kind of worry about this? I mean, when we're hypothyroid, when our thyroid isn't working, again, we're probably not going to want to have sex.
No.
Our hormones are going to be out of whack. tell me a little bit about, what you see in practice.
Oh gosh, you've just opened a can of
Pandora's
worms.
box.
Pandora's box. And by the way, thank you for introducing me to Dr. Aviva. I have a complete medical crush on her now. Because I didn't know her, but she's
great.
Fantastic.
She's great.
And I'm going to be following her for sure. So the thyroid is one of these very, very complex things that we have, and when a thyroid is out of whack, it can really play havoc with your physical and emotional health, and it's very common amongst postnatal women.
Absolutely.
Very common. Now, the symptoms of hypothyroiditis, I say thyroiditis, she says thyroiditis.
Potato.
The symptoms are, the symptoms can include brittle nails, brittle hair, hair loss, weight gain, puffiness in the face, puffiness in the hands, feeling low in the mood, feeling low in energy, feeling a little bit indifferent about everything, and having no libido,
feeling cold,
hand and feet in particular. Now, interestingly, and this makes it very complicated, is that these symptoms are very much related to postpartum, to early postpartum, without there needing to be a case of hypothyroiditis.
Right. Yeah, because it could be a little bit like, baby blues, or
baby blues, just being tired. Because when you're tired, you might end up snacking more, and therefore you're not going to lose the weight as quickly.
Right.
But the symptoms are always the symptoms that we need to look out for, and we need to keep an eye on our women who have just had a baby, and those symptoms don't lift. Yes. And then I take a very holistic approach, because I'm a midwife, but I'm not a physician, I'm not a endocrinologist, I'm not a nutritionist. I've got a very big interest in nutrition, but hypothyroiditis needs a holistic approach. We need to first we need to do a blood test and actually see if we can diagnose the hypothyroiditis. The problem is that a lot of women fall through the mazes of the conventional blood tests.
That's true. A lot of doctors rely on just the reference ranges that that are
the
on
old-fashioned
old-fashioned reference ranges, and they're not focused on optimal ranges, which is really important. You need to focus on whether you're in that optimal range, and of course you can contact me about that, or you can talk to a functional medicine doctor about it to understand what these optimal ranges are for you.
Yeah, because then you can work with them.
We can work on a nutritional program and
supplements.
And things like that. But it's interesting, isn't it? How that is also that is part of the hormonal picture that happens, that's impacting, not just sex, but our outlook, our energy levels, everything. So finally, I wanted to ask, how do we go about feeling sexy again? Yeah, because hormonally there's so much going on, and I know I struggled with self-esteem issues after giving birth. I was like, what is this body that I now have? And I really didn't feel sexy at all. So, how do you work? Or it's different for everybody, but tell us a little bit about, in your experience, how can we go about feeling sexy again?
It's a very lovely question, actually, to bring into this conversation. It's not the easiest one to answer because it is different for everybody. Yeah. But the first thing that I would like to say is that, don't expect yourselves to feel sexy within those first few months after giving birth.
So I shouldn't expect to run down like a Victoria's Secret's catwalk and feel sexy like Giselle Bundchen did,
or even just
or Heidi
having
Klum.
A shower and going, oh, I'm starting to feel sexy. It could take months for you to get to that point. So practicing a little bit of mindfulness is really important, because there's a lot to be said about positive thinking and all of that stuff. But, I'm a much bigger believer in mindfulness, and in fact, I use it as one of my pillars in my practice and as one of the pillars of the online childbirth education course, because, you're not going to be able to just make that switch and go, okay, hard. I'm just going to trick myself into thinking that I'm feeling sexy. That's not going to work. I would suggest that you give yourself, your mind and your body some love, okay? Because you need to connect the two.
Yeah.
And after birth, women disconnect the mind from the body. Okay, and that is something that takes time.
So true.
And finding your new self is something that takes time after giving birth as well. You know, finding your new you, because there is no such thing as working towards a pre-pregnancy you.
Right.
A pre-pregnancy mind and a pre-pregnancy body.
Yeah.
That is, it's impossible. Like, it's physically impossible. No matter how many times you're going to go to the gym afterwards, how many personal trainers you work with, your body is going to be different.
Absolutely.
Can you get into a better shape than before birth? Hell yes.
Yeah.
It's going to take a lot of work and a lot of energy and a lot of planning and a lot of support, but that is possible.
Yeah.
But your body is not going to be the same. So give yourself some love. And I actually really like, Christina, your program, Sleep, Love, Poop.
Right.
You know, your three-pillar program, and love sits in the middle, and it's the gel that hold the other two together. You know, because without self-love,
it's hard to make the right choices about anything, right? Yeah. No, absolutely.
So I don't know, you know, like I'm not able to. I could actually tell everyone as well to put on some makeup. You know, I mean, look, it's a little bit shallow, but you know, red lipstick goes a long way when you're feeling exhausted.
Yeah.
They're a little bit like vaginas, though. You know, red lips. You know, when they look moist, you can have a lot of fun. And they're attractive. But when they're dry and cracked, not so much. So invest in a good red lipstick, and wear clothes that suit your body, you know, and don't even think about trying to get into your pre-pregnancy skinny jeans. That's not going to happen. Invest a little bit of money in a postpartum wardrobe, and by postpartum I mean not the first 6 weeks after giving birth, you know. Once you've had a baby, you're postpartum. You're postnatal.
That's right. Cool. Thank you so much. I was so looking forward to today.
Me too. Me too.
And thank you
to
everyone.
Can I say one more thing?
Absolutely.
Because we, you know, in the feeling sexy again and getting back into having intercourse and having sex, start having sex with yourself.
Oh, for sure.
Before having sex with your partner, because masturbating, whether you use your fingers or you use a vibrator, and ladies, if you don't have a vibrator yet, order one today. Every woman needs one. What you want to do after you've given birth and you're out of that state of inflammation, and you're starting to feel ready to do a little bit of self-exploring of your new body, get into it. Literally get into it.
I think that's actually a really good point, and it's part of the whole self-love picture, isn't it? It's part of the whole connecting the mind and the body again, and moving forward with this new you. And also with your partner, explore different ways to be intimate. And absolutely.
You know, maybe we can link the blog post on sex after baby.
Definitely. We'll link it in the feed.
We're almost running out of time. We could talk about this for hours.
In fact, we have in the past talked about it for hours. Anyway, thank you all for joining. Catch me next week. I'm going to be talking to Dr. Camilla Holtz.
Fantastic.
I'm going to be talking to her. She is the only chiropractor in Hong Kong who focuses on pregnancy, on pregnant women and babies. So we're going to be talking to her about back pain and what we can do about it. Please share and like this video with everyone you know and is interested in this topic about sex and the vagina and what you can do to feel sexy again post-childbirth. And if you haven't had enough of Sofie and I, we will be at the Conscious Festival on this Saturday at 1:50 p.m. We are on a panel of experts talking about conscious parenting. So we will see you there. Thank you so much for joining. Bye.
Bye.